Deep Space Nine invests in a barrel of Aquanet. Bashir is into French ladies' feet, and O'Brien doesn't drink coffee in the afternoons. Or does he? Hey, everybody, welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 2, Episode 12, called Armageddon Game. Now that I think about it, I don't even understand that title. It's directed by Weinrich Colby, who you know well, and the story is by Morgan Gendel. How are you, Cirroc?
I'm good. Armageddon Game, yeah. That's a kind of a weird one to say, right?
I know.
Armageddon we think of as like the end of life or the end of the world, the universe, I guess. But I didn't really see that. I mean, their culture, I guess, and their civilization with this disease that they were trying to fight, right? Was it a disease or something?
Yeah, I guess like a biological weapon or something that creates disease, but it certainly wasn't a game. I mean, maybe it's a reference to something that we're not privy to.
Could be. It could be something. I don't know. It was, there were a few things that I liked about the episode, and a few things I did not.
What did you think of the barrel of Aquanet, man? How do you feel about that hair?
The hair.
Those
You're
aliens,
the Talanian hairdos.
Yeah, they had the craziest hair, ever in the history of Star. It's like, hey, come, meet me at this thing, and they're like, okay, I'll be right over. I just got to do my hair. I'll be there in 4.5 hours.
Yeah, I actually wrote that in my notes. Nice hairdos, because it was noteworthy.
Yeah, that's
clearly they're all about their hair, and there's nobody balding in that culture because you wouldn't survive. You wouldn't be able to keep your status.
Survival of the hairiest.
Yeah.
And the amount of time that they put into that. You know that the makeup room, I mean, if you worked that week, which you were not in this episode, but if you did, you'd have forever nightmares about like the makeup room smelling like Aquanet.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that I guess their culture means that you have to have a uniform hairdo, because it seemed like everybody had the same hairdo, right? The men and the women, they interchange between, I think, one or two hairdos. From what I saw.
It was like little variations of the same kind of like
the crown that is kind of the collar that's up on your hair, like your hair collar is up.
It almost looked like the bald aliens from Babylon 5. They had like this crest but I never watched Babylon 5, so I just know that it had
that particular show right now, are we?
Yeah, well, I know you're the avid Babylon 5 fan.
Yeah, no.
How about this? Do you know
we got beef with Babylon 5?
That's true. You know which Star Trek actor was a mainstay on Babylon 5?
No, tell me.
Walter Koenig. He played a character named Bester.
I'm going to give him a pass for that because Walter's an OG. I'm not going to go there with him.
You're not going to hold it against him.
No, I won't hold it against him. He's an OG, so he gets a pass. But anybody else, also not on the original cast.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Rule of Acquisition number 57.
What's that?
Quark says to them when he's giving them free drinks, he says, Rule of Acquisition number 57. Good customers are as rare as latinum. Treasure them.
Wow, that's a great one. I like that one. We're going to have to do the 57th rule when we spin this off.
Yeah, well, we can definitely, mention for sure that our supporters, our patrons, we currently have 142 of them. They are precious like latinum, and we treasure them very much. And for anybody that wants to be the 143rd or 200th, please go to patreon.com/the7th-rule and join this awesome family. We also appreciate the 3,000 or 4,000 people that are supporting us online and in various social media sites.
Absolutely. Couldn't have done it without you. We couldn't do it without you. And we do it for you and with you. So we really appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And thanks to
Uh,
Quark for mentioning that.
yeah, that was a good little plug right there. That one slipped by me. I must have been on a looking away. So
Or grabbing whatever snack you're nibbling on.
I
What is
must,
that?
yeah, this is my snacks. I missed, I haven't eaten yet. So
What is
I've
it?
been running around.
Anything fun?
These are clementines.
Oh.
Yeah, these are my little clementine action right
Oh, my darling.
there. Oh, my darling. I like to eat healthy, keep it right.
Hmm.
Yeah, there was a few things. I actually drew a picture of that ship because I like that Talanian cruiser.
Yeah, let's see it.
No, it was, and speaking of other shows, there's my little rough draft of it. It's a sketch, but it's best I could do in the 30 seconds that they show it in the opening and throughout the little thing. But
That was a good one. That's maybe your biggest drawing so far.
it is my biggest drawing. I realized that after I started writing. I said, wait a minute, maybe it shouldn't have been so big.
Those of you
But
at home just listening in, Cirroc usually draws like a nice little sketch, maybe, about a couple inches big usually, but this one took up about 70 or 80% of the paper because
yeah, this was I love that thing. It actually looked a little bit like since we're bringing up other shows and other franchises. It reminded me slightly of was it the Deathwing fighter, the Star Wars Luke Skywalker's
X-Wing.
X-Wing. Yeah, remind me of the X-Wing.
Yeah, same shape. Yeah, same shape, but without the actual X in the back, but the same shape of the cockpit.
Right. And it looked really cool, actually. So I enjoyed that. The Solanians, man, I just couldn't figure them out, man. And it was weird because have they been talked about prior? And I mean, is this
Not to my knowledge? I think they're a one-off race. I mean, we'll see if they pop up again in later episodes or seasons, and I just had forgotten them. But it feels like they're a one-off race.
Yeah, because they give very little background on them, right? So it's like, okay, they're just introducing a brand new race, and here they are with this like very critical problem that's like, we just met you, but we're also going to like save your whole society, right? All your existence, right? So it's like, this is a very rapid introduction. And then you would say to yourself, how do you know to trust these people then, right? If you just met them and you don't really engage them as we haven't met them before.
Well, as far as, I mean, maybe, and maybe this was mentioned in the intro and I just missed it, but it's entirely possible that, the Federation knows these guys forever, but we're just being introduced to them for the first time, because they're like, 1 to 200 races in the Federation. And then there are, a few hundred more that are not in the Federation, but that are out there. So, they know them. It could just be a race that they've been around and that asked for help, and we've just been introduced to them. But
Right.
I'd be fine if we never see them again.
I would be too. And I don't think we would because they did commit an act of war, as Sisko says, right?
They did.
You just committed an act of war by firing off on me.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was funny because when the guys came in there to bust it up and shoot everyone up, the first thing they said was, weapons aren't allowed in here. And I was thinking, yeah, that sign that says weapons aren't allowed never really stops somebody who's determined to use their weapon. Right?
One time, actually, real quick, when I was in France one time and I was visiting a family member at the hospital, there was a giant sign that said, in the lobby, it said no smoking, or ne pas fumer, ne pas fumer in French. You already know where this is going.
I do.
And sitting under the sign was a lady just smoking away with like 2 cigarettes, double fisting cigarette. And I was like, this is the Frenchest thing I've ever seen. And I should have taken a picture, but it was just so perfect that she's just sitting there, just her and the sign, keeping each other company in a hospital, no less.
In a hospital, yeah. That sign is for y'all. That's what she said.
It's just a suggestion.
Suggestion. But yeah, that's basically the sign. Weapons aren't allowed in this room. Didn't really hold water. But I liked a few aspects of it. I actually enjoyed the bunker. They were held up in like when Bashir and O'Brien escaped the wrath of the guns from blazing, and they
Yeah.
go hide into, I guess it's like a bunker or something,
Yeah, something. It was
some
cool. It
kind
was
of
a nice,
food
nice
supply
little set.
storage thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a nice set. I enjoyed the aesthetics of the set, the
Mhm.
kind of triangular concrete motif inside of there. I also like the lighting. I thought the lighting was real soft and kind of gave me a feeling like they were on another planet.
I hadn't noticed that. One aspect of the production design, or maybe this might be, uh, no, this was probably, I don't know if this was post production or if this was practical, but they, when they were replaying the video of watching them die or all disappear, in the bottom there's like the alien graphics that are showing, what's going on or this and that. It was really cool graphics because it was something we haven't seen before. It wasn't like the equalizer up and down, or it wasn't like dots going back and forth. It was just like a mess of, I don't know, static wrestling.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. And I thought that was also good. I actually thought that in the scene where they were reviewing that, I thought Odo would have like some kind of premonition about it by rewind that tape. Let me see. It looks like it's been spliced, or
mm.
there's a frame there that's missing. It skipped a beat. I thought they were going to do some kind of CSI detective work at that moment. So I was a little bit surprised how quickly Sisko accepted it and didn't question as much.
Mm.
Like they did it, like they eventually did later on, which is I need to go check it out. Read the signatures in the room and check out what's going on. I have to be there. I want to physically check the place out and investigate the scene of the accident.
You're right. Something like that is generally going to turn into an Odo episode. With Odo either working with Kira or reporting to Sisko about this investigation. But this episode was less about the investigation itself and more about,
The bromance.
yeah, and just it was more about progression of relationships. It was, the bromance between Julian and Miles, but it was also a little bit more depth into Miles and Keiko's relationship,
Hmm.
and it was a little bit more of Dax kind of opening up a little bit more
To
about,
Kira.
yeah, about Bashir too. That maybe it opens up a bit where she starts to kind of consider him or realize that she likes him more than she thought, or she feels bad, because she didn't read his journal. So this one was definitely more about depth of relationships, I think.
Yeah, and that was one of the good things that I think that we got out of this episode was those kind of relationships. The other one I want to point out, I think you missed, was Cisco and Keiko.
Yeah, because it's never been
Just
touched before. You're right.
I don't recall the two of them having any kind of serious interaction between each other, right?
Hmm.
And you got
Well,
that
wait, there
moment.
was the one moment where Keiko just appeared in Ops. Remember that? where Keiko,
Yeah,
where
holding the
Keiko,
baby, right?
Keiko and Molly they just appear,
Yeah,
materialize in Ops, like
I
out
think
of
that was the
nowhere.
Rumpelstiltskin. Was that the Rumpelstiltskin
Yes, it
episode?
was. Yes, it
Yeah.
was. I feel like
So
every
I try to
episode.
forget that. I try to forget that
I feel
episode.
like every episode has some kind of Keiko and Ops moment where you just kind of go like, "Wait,
Huh? What is that?
fine,
What's that
whatever."
doing there?
And they're just like, "Just go with it, dude. Just we
Just
need
go
it."
with it, accept it. Yeah.
What was today's Keiko and Ops moment?
Oh wow, that was
I think there were a few.
Keiko and I wrote down other things. Like I didn't think of a moment that was misplaced and didn't belong there. I never really looked at it that way. What was your suggestion?
I don't know. I mean, the hair, maybe. The hair was, they spent way too many hours working on that hair for
It
something that,
literally is
like,
the first note I have on the paper. So
yeah,
the
me too.
first thing I wrote down, was nice hair
First thing
because it was.
the first thing I wrote was coolest hair in Star Trek, and then after that I was like, nah, funniest hair in Star Trek.
Yeah, it was that much of like a little bit over the top,
Mm.
you know. because at first I was like, okay, that one guy has that hairdo, but then I realized, okay, they all have this hairdo. I know doing those wigs must have been a nightmare because they were like, these perfectly mounted things. Like you said, it was a whole lot of spray going on. But that I think that episode must have set the record for the most hairspray ever used in a single Star Trek episode.
I mean,
it's got to be up there. If we have to weigh out all the options, that one is the heavily sprayed episode.
And that was like 93. So was Aquanet still a thing in 93?
I don't know about Aquanet. I'm not a big hair products guy, but I'll give you a close up just to understand.
Yeah, it was kind of I feel like Aquanet was big in the mid and late 80s, especially. It was just like had this distinct smell of like hairspray where it's just like people would just explode.
Well, I remember them using the hairspray proficiently on the set and in the makeup trailer. I mean, the hair trailer,
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of that going on. That was touch-ups were with spray. So even after it was already done, they'd still have touch-ups right before we roll camera. So there's a lot of spray. We used a lot of spray.
I secretly hate that smell, man. I feel like I can't breathe.
Yeah. You know what? It doesn't bother me so much. I think I've gotten used to it now. There were some facials from O'Brien. I like O'Brien's facials. I wrote that down too. There was a moment where, there was several moments, but there was one moment in particular where Bashir was just irritating Brian as O'Brien was working on the things, and he's like, "Yeah, why don't you go and do that?" And then he turns around and rolls his eyes.
Yeah.
Like, in his way that he's pretty much the best at. I think Odo is second to O'Brien as far as the facials after post facial conversation. Like,
I'm not touching that one.
No, it's like when after the guy's looking away and he looks away, he does the best. Like, oh god. Even though Odo's really good at that too, because he likes to do those moments, yeah.
It's funny. Chief, O'Brien was in Next Generation for the first few seasons before he went into Deep Space Nine. He wasn't one of the main cast. He was, used sparingly, kind of like Keiko or Nog or something like that, where he might have been in, 15 to 30 episodes or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember him really being like, the grouchy, grumpy kind of character that he came in.
Yeah.
So they might have adjusted the writing for him just to, make it fit more as the dichotomy to Bashir,
Possibly. The other thing that would make me kind of think that is that his disgruntledness may have emerged from the fact that he has to be at DS9. And I think they touched on that in this episode when they said, when Bashir says to him, your marriage isn't working that well. Something like that, right?
He called him out, man.
He called him out, which is like really taboo to just jump on somebody's marriage and bring that up. But he tells him straight up, like, look, everybody knows that your wife doesn't want to be here. And that kind of friction, I'm sure he doesn't want to be here. She doesn't want to be here. They're probably going back and forth arguing about that. I just figured that factors into his disgruntledness, right? And I haven't seen his Next Generation appearances, but I'm sure that'll happen in good time. But from what I know is that his relationship with his wife, it at least reveals that there's a friction about him being there, right?
Mm.
So that's always a possibility. I just like the fact that he's the guy who's just a reluctant, he's grumpy Smurf, And
that was my grumpy Smurf and jokey Smurf were my favorite.
And there's almost like him and Odo have the same level of, lack of enthusiasm when it comes to certain things, right? It's just a matter of, this is my job and I have to do it, so I'm doing it.
That's a good point. I don't remember ever seeing O'Brien going like, oh, all right, we get to fix this thing. This is exciting. What a fun, whereas like someone like Dax, for example, might be excited at the prospect of solving something or whatever.
Right.
Whereas Odo and Chief are more like, well, all right, time to do this darn thing.
Next thing up. Kind of like, your mechanic doesn't get excited to fix your transmission. What you do, because you're like happy to get your car back. But yeah, I thought that was funny. And then we got to I don't know if you want to save it for the second half, but we got to get into Dr. Bashir's horniness level.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, it's a little bit. It's getting there. It's getting to the maximum level.
Yeah. So this time, what he says is that I think he said something about how he met this ballerina, this French ballerina, and he said her feet were exquisite.
Yeah, I wrote that same thing. She had the most exquisite feet.
Oh man, Bashir.
She had the perfect arches.
Good God. I don't remember the blocking in that scene, but I feel like at some point when he said that, O'Brien should have been like, dude, just stay like 2 feet away, dude. Like, just, you know what I mean? You're remembering this woman's exquisite feet and you're leaning up on me. Just go sit over there for a minute, have some water.
Yeah, and here he is. He almost died, right? They got ran up on by these guys with guns shooting. If they didn't make evasive maneuvers, they're dead, right? And the thing he's worried about most is missing the party. Man, that party would have been great. I would have got some action, And O'Brien's looking at him like, seriously? Yeah. Like we're trapped in this place where
this might be part of the reason why O'Brien doesn't like him, is because he's just like, dude, this guy won't grow up. He's always talking about chicks. Meanwhile, I'm married. My wife's always yelling at me. My kid's always crying. And this guy's always talking about all the chicks' feet that he wants to lick. And he even says something where, what does he say? Chief says something like, hey, just because you're married doesn't mean you stop looking at women. Oh, that's what it was. Because Bashir says, hey, the ladies here are pretty attractive. Have you noticed? First thing, you're on an enemy planet. People are trying to kill you. And he's like, hey, you notice how hot the chicks are here?
Yeah. Man, we could have went to that party tonight. That party for celebrating us curing. I would have got some action. That's what he was talking about. And O'Brien's like, look, man. I saw the girls. I saw them too, but that's not what's on my mind right now. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get out of here and stop and not be stuck.
Bashir's response to that was, he says, I do think about them a lot.
Yeah. What the fuck? He just kept going.
We know, dude.
Yeah. We know. So I just thought that was just like, whoa, okay, Bashir, just another, like somebody needs to just, he acts like there's no holodeck, like there's no holosuite. You can get your rocks off. I don't know. He's way too horny.
Do you think that's why he chose medicine as a career? Because he just always wanted to play doctor all the time, and then he finally was like, this might be an even better pickup line if I just do it for a career. If I just do it like the whole way through, man.
Well, the last episode he was hiding her clothes, right? I think it was not too long ago.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That was just... Hey, I just realized we got to go to our first commercial break. I do want to say before we go take our break that we did get a shout out. We always get like a little shout out here and there on the episodes for somebody that's not in, whether it's Nog or Jake or Rom. This time it was Molly. Molly made a mug. So that was a nice mention. We always get a nice mention or two every episode. We will be right back with the seventh rule.